Parshas Metzora, Tavshin Ayin Daled. This is like a week in between. We went through the Daled Parshas, we had Purim, we had everything. This week is sort of like a bit of a quiet week. Don't tell this to any of your wives or anything that it's actually a quiet week. We're about a week and a half till we'll be sitting at the Sidorim in Chutz La'aretz. We'll be sitting at the Seder in Eretz Yisrael. So Pesach is around the corner, but this week it's just Parshas Metzora. Next week will be Shabbos HaGadol. Parshas Metzora, the pasuk says, "Zois tieh Toras HaMetzora b'yoyim Torasoi v'huva el hakohen." That these are the laws of somebody who's a Metzora on the day that he becomes Tor. V'huva el hakohen. You take the person and you bring him to the kohen. That's what the pasuk means. Not that he goes to the kohen. We just lost our camera. Was that an earthquake? No, this is not Los Angeles. Okay. But for Huval Kohen, you take the person and you bring them to the Kohen. So the Mefarshim ask over here, why is it that with the pasuk Taka uses this lashon a few different times? The pasuk says, "V'huva el Kohen." You take the person, you bring him to the Kohen. Why? First of all, why can't the person come himself? Right? Unless the person is for some reason can't walk or can't get there, the person should be able to come on their own. And then there is also an exception to this v'huva kohen, and that is by negoim that are on begodim. When there's a nega on a beged, the pasuk says something else. The pasuk says v'hera es kohen. You take the person and you bring it and you take the beged and you show it to the kohen. And in other words, that pasuk is more mashma that yes, you have to do it, but it's not like this dire emergency where you have to pick up the person, take to the kohen. Get around to it, show the kohen the beged, and the kohen will give a ruling on the beged. So that, by negoyim of begodim, the pasuk that is an exception to this rule of v'huva el kohen, which is brought in other places in the parsha. In other places, the Yotza HaKoyin V'ra, why isn't that enough? For Yotza HaKoyin V'ra, let the Koyin come out and go see it. No, that's not enough. You have to take the person. So the Nesivos Shalom begins explaining this by reiterating something that we mentioned last week and something that we've mentioned over the years a few times, how severe this inyan of Tzaras and Negoyim, Lashon Hara, this whole inyan, how severe an inyan it is. And we see it from the amount of time, the amount of space and place that the Torah devotes to this inyan of Negoyim, which come from Lashon Hara and all the other things that we said Negoyim come from. Obviously, there's a very strong emphasis on this. The Torah feels it's a very chashuv thing by devoting so much space to it. We know every letter in the Torah is darshan, certainly every word, and then sometimes the spelling, if there's an extra letter, take in a letter, out a letter, and here the Torah, almost two full parshias about Negoyim. So Nesivos Shalom says that every word here is extremely, extremely important. So he says like this, a very important yesod. He said that there are those averos in the Torah, there are those averos that a person does where the problem is the actual maisa that is being done. A person does an avera, he does a maisa, and the problem of the avera is what you're doing. And then says in Nesivos Shalom something very interesting. There are other averas that the main problem of the avera is not the matzah that you're doing, not the thing that you did. The main problem of the avera is the midah that it comes from. A person has a deficiency in a midah, and that brings out that you should do something. So the main problem, while of course it might be usher to do what you're doing, and what you're doing is wrong, but this type of an avera, it says in Nesivos Shalom, unlike the avera that we mentioned, where the maisa is the entire issue, there's also an avera where a person has bad midas. A person has a bad midah, and that is the root of the problem. For example, averas that come from gaiva, an avera that's done because of a taiva. So yes, it plays out as a maisa as you're doing something, but the real deficiency, the real problem is this bad midah of gaiva, or this taiva that you have inside yourself that you can't control. Think about it for a moment, says in Nesivos Shalom. Imagine a person, for his entire life, he has this idea in his head, or let's say a person goes on for a long time, a period of days, weeks, months, whatever it is, and the person has in his mind he has a taiva to do a certain avera. And for some reason, it doesn't play out that he's able to do it, whether he's embarrassed or he doesn't have the opportunity to do it, but in his mind, he's constantly planning to do this avera. So what would you think in Shemayim they think of this person? Just because you didn't actually do the Maisa, because you actually didn't do something, okay, so maybe you're a little better than a person who actually carries it out. But in Shemayim, they don't look at a person like this as such a good person because he did everything else involved in the Avera except the final actually doing it, maybe because of some outside circumstance that didn't allow him to do it. In other words, the inside roots, the midah, the inside roots of the Avera are still there, and that's the way they look at it in Shemayim, that you're not so good just because you didn't play it out. Like the Gemara in Yuma, Gemara Masechta Yuma, Daf Chav Tes Amud Aleph, says that Hirhure Avera is Kosher Me Avera. And there are a number of ways to understand the Gemara, but one of the ways, says Nesivos Shalom, is to understand how severe the Hirhur thinking of doing an Avera, because that's almost the entire Avera. Carrying it out at the end, it's just the final step. So when a person, Nesivos Shalom says, think about this for a moment. Everybody here can identify with this. You come to Yom Kippur, or even on a Rosh Chodesh, whatever it is, a person makes Kabbalah. So a person wants to improve himself. And it comes Yom Kippur, especially, right, you go through a whole day of Yom Kippur, Ni'ilah, whatever it is, and you have so many of these big, or even small Kabbalahs that we make, and we will all admit, and we'll all say that many or most of the Kabbalahs that we make, for some odd reason, they just don't happen. And there's some psychology behind it. There's something, what's the reason? Why is it that people constantly make Kabbalahs, and you're serious about them, but they don't, and for some reason, it doesn't happen. So the Nesivos Shalom says that if a person makes a Kabbalah not to do a Maisa, let's say a person, he walks into a room by mistake on Shabbos, he flips on the light, so he decides, listen, it's not enough. He says after Shabbos, he makes himself some sort of Kabbalah, whatever it is, I'm going to cover over the lights, I'm going to walk in from a different door. He makes a Kabbalah on this Maisa. The Nesivos Shalom says that generally that's going to work. That's something that's going to work. You did a Maisa, you make a Kabbalah to avoid that Maisa, most of the time, or many of the times, that's going to work, because you're making Kabbalah on a Maisa. But let's say, this other type of Avera that we spoke about, let's say a person has a bad midah, and a bad midah that's causing him to do an avera. The Nesivos Shalom said that a simple Kabbalah is not gonna remedy that situation. It might help you for a little while. It'll keep it on your mind for a little while. But a simple Kabbalah for something that's rooted in a bad midah, he said that's most of the time what's happening with the Yom Kippur Kabbalahs. Because you're making a simple Kabbalah, but the bottom line is the problem is much deeper. So the Pasuk tells us, and Nesivos Shalom says over here in Parshas Metzora, V'huva el hakoyin. It's coming from a bad midah. This negoyim, this lashon hara that he spoke, you have some fundamental, deep problem inside. So it can't just be that when you get the time, you go to the kohen. V'huva el hakoyin. We have to take this person and make sure, bring him to the kohen. We're emphasizing the importance of getting the person to the kohen right away. Because what's the kohen going to do? The kohen's going to help him out. The kohen's going to take immediate steps. The kohen tells the person how to break your bad midas. The kohen says, go sit alone, leave your house, leave your comfort zone. The kohen is going to make some sort of adjustment in your life that's going to give you a first step in breaking down the Yetzer Hara, and breaking down the midas. The kohen is the one who's going to help you understand that really HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and we've said this also many times, HaKadosh Baruch Hu really only sends down good things min hashamayim. What happens is that we mess it up. Every midah is really a good midah. Hashem sends down good midas to the world. When Rabban Shalom sends down, the Nesivos Shalom says, Rabban Shalom sends down ahava to this world. What's it meant for? It's meant for good ahava. It's meant for avas Hashem. Yet we take the ahava and we use it to love things that we shouldn't. We use it to go after things, to quote, to have an ahava for things that we shouldn't have. Gaiva. Vayid baliboy b'darchei Hashem. Rabban Shalom sent the midah of gaiva, that a person should have a certain stolz in avodas Hashem and things like that. And what do? And we take this midah of gaiva and we use it for the wrong things. We corrupt the midas. So it's the kohen that sets the person on the right way, who begins to set the midas of a person straight. Your midas have become corrupt, so we say, B'huva el ha-kohen, we have to bring this person to the kohen to start getting him going again. And really today, we've said many times that today we don't have a Beis HaMikdash. We have Kahanim, but we don't have a Kohen. All this, says the Nesivos Shalom, applies today. That if a person has a problem with bad midas, if a person has an issue with a bad midah, he has to know that the first step is to connect himself to a Rebbe, to a Tzaddik, a Chavrusa, a good group of friends. If you have a problem with a bad midah, that's the first step. The Torah tells you, V'huva el HaKohen, because the Kohen at that time was the person who was the go-to person for fixing your midas. But today, you have to know that the lessons of the Torah and Tzoras, they're nitzchias. And they tell us today that the same process applies. That you need to connect yourself, get yourself out of a bad group. You need to connect yourself with the right people. Get into the right group. Get yourself connected with friends and people who are going to elevate you. And they're not going to just keep you in your so-called comfort zone. A person that's being over Isurim, but it's part of a bad group, so you get yourself into a comfort zone, and you're automatically going to avoid any situation that might make you feel a little bit uncomfortable. So the Nesivos Shalom says the first thing is attach yourself to a Rebbe. Attach yourself to a good group of friends, because not to do it, that's exactly what the Yetzer Hara wants you. He wants you to be stagnant. He wants the status quo. And so we ask the question, why by Negoim of Begadim, the Pasuk says, just the Hera el HaKohen, show it to the Kohen, doesn't say Behuv el HaKohen, because that's the word that we just said. Begadim are the external part of a person. They are external things. So the Hera el HaKohen, you have to do it, but you'll get around to it. You'll bring it to the Kohen. You have to do it, but there's no emphasis on taking it and right away bringing it to the Kohen. But when it's connected to the person, when it's part of you, and it's part of your being, then Behuv el HaKohen, right now. The Nesivos Shalom ends, and he tells us that on Pesach, the Yontif that we're coming to right now, there's a very special siyata d'shmaya to accomplish this, to defeat the Yetzer Hara. We say in Parshas Boy, V'lo yitein hamashchis lavoy aboteichem. Rebbeinu Shalom did not let the mashchis, when they put the dam on the doors, when they put the dam on the doors of the Klal Yisrael in Mitzrayim there, the Pasuk says that the Kadosh Baruch Hu did not let the mashchis to come to do anything in their homes. And the Nesivos Shalom says that applies today too. That there's a siyata d'shmaya in the air when it comes to Pesach time. If you make that effort, if you take a few steps, Rebbeinu Shalom will tell you, I'll help you out. I won't let the Yetzer Hara come to your house. I won't let him come into your life, but you have to do that thing. It's a very special time of siyata d'shmaya to fight the Yetzer Hara. And the way out is through Pesach. Pesach, we know, had to be eaten b'chabura. Pesach, you didn't eat a korban Pesach on your own. And Nesivos Shalom says that's what it teaches us. This inyan of Pesach and siyata d'shmaya, it's b'chabura. Get yourself involved with a good group. Join a good shiur. Join a good group of friends. Join a chesed organization like we have all the Bikur Cholim volunteers here tonight. Do something constructive. Do something chesed. Do something good with your life. B'chabura. Join a good group. This is a time of the year that's mesugel for that. That you should be able to battle the Yetzer Hara. Connect with people. B'chol dor v'dor. Chayav adam l'eretz atzmai. We're mechuyev to see ourselves just like the people were in the time of Yetzias Mitzrayim. All the lessons from then we need to work on and take them and apply them to us today. Everyone should use these lessons and take these positive steps on our way to Pesach.